I was walking through the streets of modern Japan, immersed in my thoughts, when suddenly everything happened very quickly. A truck lost control, heading towards me with overwhelming force. There was no time to react, and in the blink of an eye, I was hit brutally. The sight of the accident was the last thing I saw. I felt the pain and the impact, but soon everything darkened. It seemed that my life was slipping away, drops of blood falling to the ground, marking the end of my existence in that world. I died in an accident in modern Japan. Those words echoed in my mind as darkness enveloped me. However, the end was not really the end. When I came to, I was no longer in modern Japan. I was in a completely different place, a new and unknown world. There, I was welcomed with love and affection by a new family. A woman with long, wavy hair held me in her arms, while a smiling man stood by her side, both looking at me tenderly. And I reincarnated in another world. Ryuto was chopping wood with determination, though he was visibly exhausted. His movements were precise, but the task was arduous and repetitive. Like a villager, he thought, reflecting on his new life. But I am just a villager. With each strike of the axe, he remembered how he had reincarnated in this world. When you talk about reincarnation, aren't you supposed to become a cheater? Ryuto sighed, wiping the sweat from his forehead. Oh well. He accepted his fate with a tired smile. If that's the case, I'll just live as a normal villager. Suddenly, a voice called his attention. Hey, Ryuto! Moses and Cordelia approached Ryuto, interrupting his wood-cutting task. Cordelia, with an amused expression, asked, Did you forget our promise to eat together? Ryuto, surprised and a bit embarrassed, tried to justify himself. Oh, Moses, always with a serene demeanor, observed the interaction with a slight smile. Ryuto, still confused, asked, What do you two want? Cordelia, full of energy, grabbed Ryuto by the hand. Come on, the sun is already setting. As she pulled him along, Ryuto thought, At the moment, the cheater is this girl who was born 3 days after me. Cordelia Alston, was radiant, excited at the prospect of spending time together. Cordelia pulled Ryuto by the hand, but he quickly let go. Ryuto, with a smile on his face, tried to calm the others. It's okay, don't worry about it. I hurt my hand chopping wood just now. She, startled and embarrassed, apologized. I'm sorry. Seeing Cordelia's concern, Ryuto waved his hand, indicating that everything was fine. Now, to avoid getting hurt easily, I need to be more careful while working. Meanwhile, Moses remembered something important and asked, Oh right, what about the speaker at the magic conference? Cordelia, still recovering from the incident, looked at Moses surprised. Ah, the great Hat Sensei. At the age of 15, Cordelia was already an Ikki Tosen, a warrior called a hero. She literally was a person worth 1,000. Speaking of heroes, they literally exist so that countries can win wars. They are considered one-man armies by countries, and their high levels make them cheaters. And Moses, another one of my childhood friends, he is of the sage class. As a sage, he can use magical artillery weapons, another cheater. Ryuto watched the two with a mix of admiration and shame. That's why. I feel so embarrassed, but still. Ryuto embraced Cordelia and Moses with a broad smile on his face. Cordelia, surprised, and Moses, a bit annoyed, looked at Ryuto, not understanding his sudden burst of affection. Cordelia, still confused, asked, Hey Ryuto, what was that all of a sudden? Moses, trying to maintain his composure, said, Hey, how long are you going to continue this conversation that I don't understand? Cordelia, with a slight tone of criticism, commented, Ryuto-san, you stink. You know, if you knew we were coming, you should have taken a bath. Ryuto, embarrassed, quickly apologized. Really? Sorry. Moses, trying to divert the conversation, muttered, I don't know how to talk about anything other than studies. In the background, friends and acquaintances laughed at the situation, enjoying the relaxed scene under the night sky. Ryuto was sitting next to Cordelia, watching the fire crackle in front of them. Visibly nervous, he asked, Hey Cordelia, are you sure it's okay? Don't monsters come here often? Cordelia, with a confident smile, replied, Heh? I even earned the title of Dragon Slayer here. Are you nervous about monsters? Ryuto, trying to hide his concern, said, I'm just a villager. I have no choice. Cordelia, laughing at the situation, teased, Are you so scared that you want to run back to the village? Ryuto, still worried, kept twisting his head and nervously observing the surroundings. Cordelia, maintaining her confident tone, added, "To bring someone like me here." Suddenly, a fierce roar echoed through the forest, interrupting the conversation. A huge monster emerged from the shadows, ready to attack. Cordelia, with a determined look and her sword in hand, advanced towards the monstrous boar that had appeared from the shadows. Ryuto watched, astonished, as Cordelia demonstrated her impressive skills. With a swift and precise move, Cordelia slashed the boar, leaving a trail of energy in the air. "We'll have fried boar for dinner tonight," she exclaimed confidently, showing no sign of fear. Ryuto, still surprised, could hardly believe the strength and dexterity of Cordelia, who was resolute in protecting everyone around her. Cordelia, a bit embarrassed, looked at Ryuto and began to speak. "A moment ago, you asked why I brought you to this place, right?" Ryuto, trying to hide his confusion, replied, "Nothing. Well, the expression I showed." Ignoring Ryuto's attempt to change the subject, Cordelia continued, "That's why I want you to see the real me. From now on, I will become a member of the Knight's Order and go out for a year to train. And at 16, I will enter the Royal Magic School as a special student." She looked into Ryuto's eyes, determined. "I want you to see the part of me you don't see in the village." Surprised by Cordelia's sincerity, Ryuto looked around, realizing something. "Moses is watching, isn't he?" With a shy smile, Cordelia replied, Only you." Cordelia, with tears in her eyes and a frustrated expression, shouted at Ryuto, I am showing you. Because you are so cheerful, I couldn't show you, you know? Don't you think anything about it?" Visibly shaken, Cordelia asked, "Don't you have anything you want to tell me?" Immediately after, Moses shouted, "Ryuto-san, can you come here for a moment, please?" Ryuto, confused and trying to understand the situation, said, "Oh, I'm coming. Calm down. It's a bit difficult for me to wash this in the cold, you know?" Meanwhile, the scene seemed frozen in time, both trying to process the emotions and words that were not easy to express. Ryuto, with a confused expression, asked, "What's with that swollen face?" Cordelia, visibly irritated, replied, "I don't know. Go and help him, idiot." Ryuto, trying to calm the situation, said, "I know that." Still serious, Cordelia added, "And while you are a villager, if you encounter a monster, stay away and call me." Now more relaxed, Ryuto reflected on Cordelia's words while holding a lantern. "Well, I have no choice, while I am a villager." While Ryuto and Moses were busy washing clothes near a river, Moses apologized. "I'm sorry, Ryuto-san, for asking your help with this." Ryuto, with a reassuring smile, replied, "Don't worry, this is a villager's job, not a sage's." Moses laughed and said, "Well, the princess and I decided you were in charge of cooking and I of washing." Ryuto, while washing, agreed, "That's true. That girl just gives orders and does nothing." Looking at Ryuto with gratitude, Moses said, "I'm really sorry, Ryuto-san." Ryuto smiled and replied, "It's okay. The three of us are friends." Finally, after finishing the work, Ryuto exclaimed, "Yusha, we're done!" Ryuto suddenly started to feel something strange. He looked at his hands and body, realizing that something was wrong. Ugh! He collapsed to the ground, his vision becoming blurry. Seeing Ryuto on the ground, Moses quickly approached. "Friends, you say? A villager friend of a sage? Huh, isn't that a joke?" Confused and struggling to move, Ryuto tried to understand what was happening. "Who is who?" he asked, looking at Moses. With a serious look, Moses observed the situation. Finally, the medicine is taking effect. Moses' expression changed to one of malice. Lying on the ground and feeling the effects of the medicine, Ryuto asked with difficulty, "Why? What did you do?" With a serious expression, Moses replied, "You, Cordelia, and I were all born in the same year and became childhood friends as we grew up. My class aptitude is sage, one among tens and hundreds of thousands, and the one chosen for this talent was me, and I am also a reincarnated being." As Ryuto listened, Moses continued, "However, the one she chose to like was..." Moses' revelation brought new understanding to Ryuto, who now knew that Moses was also reincarnated and that his actions had deep and personal motivations. Moses continued, revealing more about his true nature and motivations. Even talking about reincarnation, you won't understand. Besides, I wasn't just blessed with being a sage, I am special." Still trying to process the information, Ryuto listened as Moses continued. "I was surprised. I must be very special, to have a girl like an angel being born into this world. A few years later, I am ready to go all out. Moses looked at Ryuto with a confident smile, certain of his abilities and importance in this new world. The determination in his eyes showed that he was willing to do whatever it took to achieve his goals, even if it meant competing with Ryuto for Cordelia's affection. Ryuto was lying on the ground, paralyzed, poisoned, and immobilized with only 4 HP left. He could barely move, while Moses continued to speak. "I am the most suitable for her," said Moses with conviction. Struggling to maintain consciousness, Ryuto heard Moses continue. "This is my answer to your question. A villager trying to stay on the same level as a hero. Find your place." Moses looked at Ryuto with a mix of disdain and pity, while Ryuto tried to understand the depth of Moses' words and his own desperate situation. Sensing something was wrong, Cordelia looked around and called out, "Ryuto?" Suddenly, Ryuto was pushed into the water, his vision becoming blurred as he sank. Finally, "Let me," he thought, feeling the cold water around him. Damn! Ryuto struggled to stay conscious, but the paralysis and poison were taking their toll. His vision began to darken as he continued to sink, leaving Cordelia behind on the surface. Realizing that something was wrong, Cordelia looked around in a panic. "Ryuto, where are you?" she shouted, running towards the water. Meanwhile, Ryuto struggled to stay conscious underwater. His thoughts were confused, but an image of Cordelia appeared in his mind. "Cordelia," he thought, feeling helpless. With his vision becoming blurred, he tried to focus on his last happy memory. "I am happy," he thought, as his vision faded and he sank deeper into the dark waters. Desperate, Cordelia reached out to Ryuto, who was being carried away by the current. "I wanted to tell her, I'm sorry," Ryuto thought as his vision darkened. With tears in her eyes, Cordelia screamed, trying to reach Ryuto, determined to save him at any cost. Still submerged in the water, Ryuto began to have flashes of memory. He remembered a childhood moment when Cordelia and he were playing together. Cordelia, with a confident smile, wielded a wooden sword while Ryuto watched in surprise and admiration. The scene of playful and happy childhood contrasted with the desperate situation Ryuto found himself in now. These moments of joy and friendship made him realize the importance of Cordelia in his life, bringing him a sense of peace amidst the darkness. Ryuto continued to have flashes of his childhood, remembering Cordelia smiling with joy while holding a wooden sword. He recalled the times when he and Cordelia played together, exploring the forest with torches in their hands and laughing at their adventures. "Ah, that," Ryuto thought as more memories came back. He remembered a specific moment when he held Cordelia's hand, feeling a deep and genuine connection with her. The torch lantern, basically, memories that surface when you die, he reflected, understanding the importance of these moments as his consciousness began to fade. Lost in his memories, Ryuto saw images of Cordelia drifting away from him. He felt helpless, unable to reach her. "I am pathetic," he thought, as the image of Cordelia smiling continued to fill him with a mix of sadness and determination. "Strong. I want to be strong," Ryuto thought, his desire to become stronger and protect those he loved growing within him. Tears streamed from his eyes, mingling with the water around him, as he tried to find the strength to keep fighting. Still struggling to regain consciousness, Ryuto heard a deep and powerful voice. "I don't know if you are lucky or unlucky. You were carried by the current, which is why you arrived here." Surprised, Ryuto opened his eyes and found himself facing the imposing figure of a dragon. "Dragon!" he exclaimed, shocked by the sight. The dragon continued, "I have a request for you. This must also be some kind of destiny. I will do it while possible." Confused and exhausted, Ryuto tried to process the dragon's words, feeling that something important was about to happen. Still weak and lying down, Ryuto heard the dragon speak of an ancient legend. "I heard about this before, of a person who lived in a dragon's lair and was strong." Ryuto remembered. That is true. Someone like that existed in the past. When a normal person formed with a dragon, they received abnormal power to become a hero. It's a famous story among heroes. The dragon continued, "It's a shame, but I cannot grant your request." Desperate, Ryuto pleaded, "Please, take me with you. I want to be strong." The dragon looked at Ryuto and explained, "There are 2 reasons. First, an age restriction. People accepted by the dragon race are slaves or orphans up to 12 years old. With difficulty, Ryuto asked, "And the other?" With a severe tone, the dragon replied, "You are already dead." The reality of the dragon's words hit Ryuto hard, leaving him speechless as he tried to process what was happening. With tears streaming down his face, Ryuto struggled against the reality of his condition. This cannot be, he thought, as his vision began to fade. Ryuto's HP, 060, status, dying. He asked the dragon, "So, if I don't meet these conditions?" The dragon replied, "In that case, I will grant you a wish. I won't go back on my word." Grasping onto his last hope, Ryuto asked, "So this is a promise?" With his last strength, he requested, "What I want is divine protection of the dragon, and, also, the great library of the Dragon King." Before finishing his sentence, he fainted, his life hanging by a thread as he awaited the dragon's response and help. Shocked, the dragon tried to protest. "No, how do you know about this?" He stared at Ryuto, a bright light in his eyes. Before asking, "Reading your mind is faster," he declared. The dragon continued, relentless. "This is not your first time seeing me, back then." Still processing the dragon's words, Ryuto recalled moments from his childhood, fragments of memories that began to make sense now. "I understand. You are thinking of something very interesting." The dragon seemed to have found something in Ryuto's mind that would change the course of events. Reflecting on Ryuto's request, the dragon pondered aloud, "If I grant what you are asking, the line back then would be altered like this." Meanwhile, Ryuto remained motionless, his HP 0 and his status marked as dead. The dragon continued, "A problematic person received my promise." The gravity of the situation was evident. Ryuto's fate now depended on the dragon's decisions and the possible alterations in time and space that his wish could cause. Ryuto found himself in a strange space, floating in a void with cubes scattered around him. He looked around, confused, and slowly stood up. As he stood, he murmured to himself, "Somehow, I won this bet." With a slight smile on his face, he felt relieved, as if he had achieved something important. The scene suggested that he was in a place between life and death, a space where the impossible could become reality. Ryuto found himself before a mysterious and majestic figure who seemed to be a goddess or a divine being. She held an ornate scepter and wore an elaborate mask. The figure began to explain to Ryuto about the special reincarnation ability called Return by Death. The Return by Death ability allows a person who dies after a fixed period of reincarnation to return to life with the same status they had after the first reincarnation. Relieved and grateful, Ryuto commented on his gratitude for the ability. The divine figure mentioned that he had gone through many hardships and revealed that few people understand the true nature of return by death. She mentioned that many people perceive the function as a tutorial, but there is a duty of confidentiality involved. Ryuto was clearly relieved to have survived and understood more about his special ability, while the divine figure continued to guide him in the mysterious space with floating cubes around. In the image, the divine figure continues explaining to Ryuto about the reincarnation abilities. She mentions that the Return by Death ability can only be chosen once, and he can only acquire a maximum of 2 abilities. Ryuto asks if he can choose resurrection abilities again, but is informed that he cannot. The divine figure then asks Ryuto to choose the 2 abilities that will replace Return by Death and Sanity that he had previously chosen. While choosing, Ryuto reflects that in the end, his villager class will still be a success. The divine figure confirms that he will repeat the previous tutorial and that his place of birth, environment, and development will be the same. Although he finds the situation embarrassing, Ryuto accepts that in the next reincarnation, the choices will diminish. He prepares for the new phase, reflecting on the decisions he is making for his new life. Ryuto chooses the abilities Persistence and Agricultural Cultivation to replace the previous abilities. He explains to the divine figure that he chose these specific abilities because in his daily struggles, he wants to provide smiles and flowers for a girl who loves flowers. The chosen abilities are described as Persistence reduces the physical and mental effects of fatigue while maintaining high vigor. Agricultural cultivation increases the productivity of farming and livestock. The divine figure understands the choice of persistence and questions agricultural cultivation. Ryuto responds that the girl loves flowers and he wants to provide those moments of happiness for her. The divine figure grants Ryuto's choices the abilities, persistence, and agricultural cultivation. She confirms that she understood the choices and tells Ryuto to have a good journey. Ryuto appears relieved and satisfied, while the divine figure bids him farewell with a hand gesture. These chosen abilities are seen as appropriate for what Ryuto wants to achieve on his journey, which is to provide smiles and flowers to the girl he loves, while maintaining his physical and mental resilience. Ryuto is reflecting on his journey. He mentions that he will be reborn in the same ruined house without power or health as a villager. However, now he has a promise and a solution to become strong, even as a villager. He is determined to move forward and achieve victory. "Ryuto-chan, happy second birthday!" exclaimed a radiant woman, holding Ryuto in her arms. The smile on her face illuminated the room, reflecting the joy of the moment. Around them, several people were celebrating. "Congratulations, Molaine-san," said an older man, busy preparing something special for the occasion. "To you too, Olsten-san. Thank you for coming," replied Molaine, while other villagers joined in the celebration. Everyone was visibly happy, sharing the joy of Ryuto's special moment. Molaine, raising her hands, called everyone's attention. "Now, everyone, attention! Another protagonist appears." Her voice echoed through the room, and everyone turned their gaze to Ryuto, whose future promised to be extraordinary. Miss Cordelia, who was born 3 days later, introduced a man, presenting the small girl to the guests. "Wow, so beautiful, like an angel. I look forward to the future, Olsten-san," exclaimed a woman, admiring the child's beauty. "Yes, well," replied Olsten, visibly embarrassed. "How about this? In the future, we hope she will be with our son," commented one of the parents, looking fondly at Cordelia. "Our child is also hungry," called a woman, holding her baby. "What happened?" asked a concerned man upon hearing a child's loud cry. "Molaine-san, please lend me your wife's room," asked the woman, trying to calm the baby. "Yes, go ahead. My wife is also using it," replied enthusiastically while a man celebrated. "I managed to sell the herring." Ryuto lay in his bed, reflecting. His parents slept in the adjacent bed with peaceful and happy expressions. His father laughed softly in his sleep, saying, "Ha ha ha, Ryuto is healthy." His mother, half awake, murmured, "Ryuto-chan, mommy will protect you." Zzz. Observing his parents, Ryuto thought, "My mom and dad are the same as always." He turned his head to look around, noting a specific point in the room. "That's the common place for wind magic," he pondered. He raised a small hand, trying to concentrate. "If I keep this up, I can use it even as a baby," he reflected, determined to use his prior knowledge to enhance his magical skills. "Well," he sighed, closing his eyes to try using the magic. Determined to become stronger, Ryuto stretched his small hand and focused, trying to conjure wind magic. He tried once, unsuccessfully. Once, he thought. He tried again, and then a third and fourth time, but still, it didn't work. Twice, 3 times, 4 times. It didn't work. He felt his energy depleting. "My MP is gone," he acknowledged, panting and sweating as he stared at the ceiling. Lying down, he wondered, "Why am I doing this? I had already decided." He closed his eyes slowly, determined to become stronger. Standing, Ryuto said, "What should I do to become stronger as a villager?" and began to explain. "First, let me explain the wisdom ability." An explanatory board appeared. Special ability from the previous reincarnation 2, wisdom, capable of referencing and inspecting any writing below Class B in the mind. He continued. In the library of his mind, he reflected, being able to read books from all over the world within the head. That is wisdom. He held an old book in his hands. "I got it in a certain mage association that records someone's experiences, and this book, before I used it to gain knowledge from childhood." Reflecting, while images of his childhood appeared in the background, Ryuto thought, how to expand magical power in childhood years. An explanatory board appeared. A baby's talent is exceptional. Ryuto continued to reflect. The greatest margin of improvement is seen when training for magical power expansion is completed. Sensitivity, adaptation, and knowledge are absorbed better in childhood. An adult would have a headache or enter a shock level capable of causing madness. He remembered, Anyway, expanding magical power requires an individual to use magic clearly until the MP limit is reached. They paid close attention to a baby's talent and potential, forcing it to undergo magic training for an experiment. Therefore, even knowing the method, I couldn't continue. Now determined, Ryuto thought, I can endure with the persistence ability. He smiled, determined. But this time, an explanatory board appeared. This time, second reincarnation, special ability, persistence, reduces the physical and mental state ailment effects, instead has high resistance. Determined and confident, Ryuto reflected on his ability and growth. He thought, MP increases hundreds of times faster in the infant stage. The ability to endure pain with my mind, this means my magical power will expand infinitely. He remembered the limitations he faced. No matter how much effort I put in, there will always be things I cannot achieve. I am just a villager. But then, he decided to try even harder. Now, this is my strongest self. If that's the case, I'll advance ahead of things before they even reach me. 2 years later, in the month of my 4th birthday, I went to the village priest to use the status plate. Ryuto was blessed by the priest and received the status plate. He looked at the plate and reflected, status plate. The statuses are usually visible only to the user. Looking at the plate, he smiled and thought, I have grown more than I expected. I'm leaving, exclaimed Ryuto as he ran excitedly. He remembered the things he brought back from time to time and thought, the things I brought back from time to time were bought on the street. Reflecting on his choices, Ryuto pondered, not going to the mountain? Money to buy things? The answer to that is... He recalled his solitary adventures. It seems I have been wandering alone since I was 4 years old. He remembered his playtimes behind the mountain. I went to play alone behind the mountain to gather vegetables and herbs. I'm going with you, Ryuto. To gather vegetables, Cordelia announced decisively, but Ryuto responded with a doubtful look and said, I'm not taking you, Cordelia. Feeling rejected, Cordelia grumbled. Ryuto doesn't want to play with me at all. Sad, she asked. Why? I feel lonely. I'm sorry, said Ryuto with a nervous smile on his face. I'll play with you next time. I won't listen to you anymore ever again, shouted Cordelia, turning to leave. Ryuto, you idiot, Cordelia continued, visibly upset. As Cordelia walked away, Ryuto murmured to himself, what a troublemaker. I need to get away from home, so something like this doesn't happen again. Ryuto reflected, determined to change his fate. He activated an ability. Ability activate. About the money and how I got it, thought Ryuto, remembering the difficulties he faced. He looked around, trying to get his bearings. Now where was I? Running, Ryuto thought about the level 4 physical capacity enhancement ability. He said to himself, physical capacity enhancement, level 4. He continued, I work on the streets of an inn outside a village to earn money. If I use my ability, it's easy to get, even as a child. He wondered, why am I working, you ask? Next, Ryuto stood on a rock with a confident smile on his face. He looked down at the city below him and thought, of course, to get stronger. Healing magic, recover from fatigue, heal wounds and injuries. Once, 2 pieces of bronze. Continuing his healing work in the city, Ryuto helped people recover from their injuries. He thought to himself, it's not rare to see children my age who can use beginner-level healing magic. Someone in line said, don't cut in line, jerk. Another person, eager, exclaimed, I'm next. While healing someone's injuries, Ryuto thought, and so I became an opponent of the merchants, opening my own healing magic stall. Someone who had just been healed by Ryuto said, oh, I can move easily again. Thank you. Another person, impressed, commented, even being so young, you have insane healing ability. Ryuto responded, sorry, that's it for today. He thought, I am out of MP, lying. Even now, I continue my MP expansion, but it's too boring to exhaust an absurd amount of MP. Walking through the streets with a large sack, Ryuto reflected, I stop healing once I reach a certain number of people so it doesn't seem like a trick. I am busy using my MP and earning money on the streets of that inn on the highway. Ryuto was storing his savings in a hidden safe, reflecting to himself, I managed to save a lot of money. He looked at the coins inside the safe, satisfied with his earnings, and thought, my statuses are also stretching well. Suddenly, Cordelia appeared, looking at Ryuto with a worried expression. Ryuto, not understanding, asked, what's wrong, Cordelia? Cordelia hesitated for a moment, but didn't respond immediately. Ryuto, trying to understand the situation, thought what could be going through her mind. With a determined expression, Cordelia crossed her arms and decided not to say anything. Ryuto continued looking at her, waiting for a response, but Cordelia just remained silent, leaving Ryuto even more confused. Visibly irritated, Cordelia declared, "I said I won't listen to you anymore." Ryuto, with a tired expression, thought, "Ah, troublemaker." More stubborn than ever, she continued, "I've been here since morning." While Ryuto rubbed his head, frustrated, he commented, "Well, easy to take care of as always." With a challenging look, Cordelia glared at him. Ryuto, trying to resolve the situation, extended his hand and offered a sandwich. "Here, a little something for you." Surprised, Cordelia looked at the sandwich and exclaimed, with eyes shining, "Bae, bacon with lettuce sandwich." Ryuto observed Cordelia's expression and, not missing the chance, said, "Eat this now." Surprised and delighted, Cordelia couldn't contain her joy, while Ryuto felt a bit relieved for having calmed his friend. Walking together hand in hand, Cordelia said, Hey Ryuto?" Cordelia continued, "You know, today my mom—" Ryuto, interrupting, questioned, "Weren't you going to stop listening to me for the rest of your life? I thought." Confused, Cordelia said, "Do you know what this is called? This is called a tactical retreat." Ryuto laughed and agreed, Yes, that's right." Both continued walking side by side, enjoying the quiet moment at dusk. Sitting on a hill, Cordelia, with a curious expression, asked, "Hey Ryuto, isn't this fun?" Resting, Ryuto responded, "Yeah, I'm having fun." Cordelia insisted, "I'm asking if you're having fun?" Still relaxed, Ryuto thought, "I just want to distance myself from you." With a calm expression, Ryuto concluded, "The street vendors will come today. They will be selling products collected from various countries, so when the merchants arrive, it will become an event. This place is rural, and rural is a dump." Cordelia asked, "Ryuto, isn't your family coming?" Ryuto replied, "Due to the bad harvest, we are living simply and frugally." Cordelia asked, "Simply and frugally?" Ryuto explained, "Not luxuriously, but with difficulty." Cordelia responded, "Ah, I understand." Ryuto reflected, "Another family barely survived and sold their own child. We also barely managed. Last year's weather was the worst." With the arrival of the merchants, the village turned into a lively event despite the hardships faced by its inhabitants. Cordelia then joked, "Hey Ryuto, try saying burn 10 times." Ryuto looked at her surprised. Ryuto grumbled, while Cordelia then asked, "So what does the hen lay?" Ryuto quickly replied, "An egg." Ryuto said to Cordelia, "You're 10 years too early to trick me." Cordelia continued to challenge Ryuto, But, you probably won't be able to answer my next question." Curious, Ryuto asked, "What kind of question is that?" Cordelia then said, "After. Say love 10 times." Ryuto started saying love repeatedly, while Cordelia became agitated. Ryuto continued saying love, completing the challenge. Ryuto looked at Cordelia, confused. "I forgot what the other question was that I was going to ask you." Blushing and happy, Cordelia exclaimed, "I'm so happy you said you like me." Ryuto patted Cordelia's head, who smiled contentedly. Laughing, Ryuto commented, "You just said something so cute." Reflecting, Ryuto thought, "Anyway, I definitely think of her as someone special. Childhood friend, younger sister, or maybe a daughter or niece," he pondered. Walking hand in hand, Ryuto concluded in his thoughts, "I don't think of her as someone I could fall in love with." With a radiant smile, Cordelia exclaimed, "Wow!" Ryuto and Cordelia walked excitedly through the busy market. "It's so cool!" Cordelia exclaimed, her eyes shining with joy. Observing the stalls, Cordelia ran to one of them and grabbed something, returning to Ryuto. "Wait here for a minute," she said, leaving Ryuto curious. "The usual snacks are enough for you?" he asked, somewhat confused. She quickly returned, holding a package in her hands. "Here, Ryuto," she said, extending the gift to him. Surprised, Ryuto saw the gift Cordelia gave him. "Ah," he began, remembering something. "Today is your birthday, isn't it?" Cordelia asked, a bit embarrassed. I was saving some of my allowance," she explained, holding the package carefully. Still trying to process, Ryuto thought to himself, "I completely forgot. The impression of my old birthday was stronger." He looked at Cordelia, who smiled joyfully. "Since I already have this prepared for her," he decided, touching the gift he had prepared. Reflecting on it, "It makes sense that my birthday would be close," he pondered. Cordelia jumped with joy. "Are you happy, Ryuto?" she asked, hopeful. Smiling, Ryuto held the gift he prepared. "So this is in return," he said excitedly, offering the gift to Cordelia, even though it's 3 days early. Surprised, Cordelia received the gift. "Happy birthday to you too, Cordelia," Ryuto said, placing the flower hairpin in her hair. Cordelia began to blush, unable to contain her joy. "Ryuto!" she exclaimed, her voice filled with emotion. Confused, Ryuto simply responded with while observing Cordelia's excited reaction. Suddenly, Cordelia leaned in and kissed Ryuto. He was surprised, his eyes wide in shock. Ryuto tried to process what had just happened. What are you doing so suddenly?" Ryuto asked, still stunned. Cordelia explained timidly, "Mom and Dad do this to show how well they get along, you know?" "He hit my nose." "Ow," Cordelia murmured, rubbing her nose. Still sweating and confused, Ryuto shook his head. A kiss is not that important to her yet. "Hey, Ryuto." Ryuto turned, trying to understand the situation. Cordelia placed the flower in her hair, smiling happily. "Does it look good on me?" Still processing everything, Ryuto replied with a smile. "Yeah, shall we go back?" Cordelia asked, turning to Ryuto. Ryuto looked at her, confused. "Did we buy what we needed?" With an innocent look, Cordelia responded. "What's wrong?" Ryuto asked back. "Did you finish what you needed, didn't you?" Still holding the flower, Cordelia murmured, "Stare." Ryuto chuckled slightly, thinking to himself, "This girl." Cordelia then realized something. "My snack." Ryuto continued smiling, amused by the situation. "A honey-flavored one. I paid but didn't receive it." "I understand. Wait here a bit." This girl will say one day in the future that she has a separate stomach for sweets. Ryuto and Cordelia were sitting side by side, watching the movement around them. Suddenly, a noise began to catch their attention. Approaching an isolated cabin, Ryuto said, "So this is the place." With a curious look, he observed the building in front of him. "There is a strange person staying in a place far from the village. I came here to meet them today. But this way, I'll only be able to get better at magic and MP. It doesn't make sense for that. I am definitely growing." Ryuto knocked on the cabin door. Knock, knock, knock. The sound of the knock echoed. A disheveled figure opened the door, looking irritated. "Who the hell are you?" Holding his status card, Ryuto thought, "What I needed now? A teacher." "Come back. I won't teach you. I don't accept disciples." Ryuto was holding a shining magical orb while the bearded man vehemently rejected him. "This man has a reason to reject me." However, determined, Ryuto thought, "I'm not leaving here empty-handed." "Bernard-san," Ryuto shouted hopefully. "Do you have a bit more?" The bearded man looked at him with an incredulous gaze. "Boy, are you trying to be funny?" Ryuto, taking a deep breath, decided he would not give up. His mother, with tears in her eyes, runs towards Ryuto. "Ryuto-chan, Ryuto-chan." Surprised, Ryuto turns to see the woman coming towards him. He thought to himself, in reality, it's not that I don't like it, but she has to stop being the mother she is. With an ironic smile, he concluded, "You're beautiful, mother." Meanwhile, Ryuto raises his determined fist. "Only 7 days left until the goblin attack. I'm ready to meet the dragon." Bernard Arabasta. He was once called the strongest swordsman in the kingdom. What is important in his personal history? He was born as a villager, grew up, and got married. They were poor, but built a happy family. An incident happened on the 3rd anniversary of the last child's birth. Bernard Arabasta, covered in blood with his sword in hand, faces the immense ogre before him. This ogre devoured his daughter. He, who had lost everything, disappeared from the village. And he appeared, decades later, at the swordsman competition in the royal city. In the competition, he joined the victorious Knight Order. He became the next in line to succeed the captain in the Knight Order and put his heart and soul into repressing the orcs. The birth of the Orc Slayer. With that said, I can't teach anyone anything. If you know all this, then you also know what happened afterward, don't you? "That is elixir!" exclaimed Bernard upon seeing the shining vial in front of him. "The only remedy that can save your life," Ryuto stated with conviction. "How did you get the money to buy this?" Bernard asked, perplexed. "I got the money by healing. That's my secret." Ryuto calmly replied while handing the vial to Bernard. "I will allow others to see this. Open status. These messy numbers are your status." Bernard looked at Ryuto with a mixture of surprise and distrust. "Are you some kind of demon or divine beast?" he asked, incredulous. Ryuto laughed and shook his head. No, I'm human, just like you. I'm just a villager, right? Bernard was even more confused. So why are you, a villager with MP exceeding 10K, begging me to become a disciple? MP and magic are not humanly possible, Bernard murmured to himself, still trying to understand. If you want to learn ways to use magic, you can join the Royal Academy. No, you could join the Imperial Academy, right? Bernard suggested, looking at the young villager with a new perspective. Ryuto continued, trying to explain his situation. I am a villager. No matter how hard I work at it, I am unable to use high-level magic due to the aptitude of my job. My daily limit is lifestyle magic. That sounds reasonable, Bernard reflected, holding the elixir in his trembling hands. I need to become stronger, Ryuto insisted with a serious expression. I'm sorry, but I can't say anything beyond that. Bernard sighed, seeing the determination in the young man. Anyway, I'll be in a lot of trouble if you die. Bernard looked at him, considering his words. Finally, he slowly stood up. Wait a minute, he said, starting to walk towards the back room. The back room? Ryuto wondered, watching Bernard with curiosity and anticipation. Bernard entered the back room, where a small altar was set up. On the altar, various old toys, flowers, and a vial of elixir were carefully arranged. He knelt before the altar, appearing in deep reflection and prayer. Ryuto watched from a distance, trying to understand what was happening. Bernard took an ornate dagger from the altar, his hand trembling slightly as he held it. An image of the family he once loved, painful memories passing through his mind. Meanwhile, Ryuto waited patiently, his heart beating fast with anticipation of what was to come. Bernard emerged from the back room looking completely transformed. His long beard and hair were trimmed, revealing a cleaner and rejuvenated face. He turned to Ryuto with a confident smile. How do I look? I'm still a cool guy, aren't I? Bernard asked, awaiting a reaction. Ryuto, impressed with the change, smiled back, relieved to see the renewed spirit of his new mentor. You look great, Bernard-san, Ryuto responded enthusiastically, feeling that a new chapter was about to begin. 6 years later, Ryuto, now 12 years old, woke up in his bed, contemplating what was to come. He reflected on the time that had passed since he began training with Bernard. I am already 12, and today is the 27th day of the 3rd month. A week later, a gang of goblins will invade the village. Cordelia, his childhood friend, will fight bravely, but will be overwhelmed by the number of goblins, facing the bitter feeling of defeat. The village prepares for an event that could change their lives forever. Anyway, after that, a dragon coincidentally passing by will finish off the remaining goblins. That was what happened last time. Ryuto decides, I will leave the village for a while. This time, he heads straight to the dragon's nest first. He knows there are still many variables he needs to take care of, but as he thought, the first thing is, his mother was already beside him full of energy, saying, Good morning, Ryuto-chan. And your good morning kiss? He tries to calm her. Please, calm down and listen to me. Mother, she insists, smiling. Good morning kisses. Ryuto, a bit embarrassed, responds, Let's stop with the good morning kisses. Ryuto, saying that he is already 12 years old, and good morning kisses are good until the age of 6, even though she confirms it soon after his mother tries to kiss him again. 6 years earlier, Ryuto is learning about reinforcement skills. He wants to acquire the Iron Body skill. The mentor explains that Iron Body adds numbers to the values of AC, Def, and SB, while physical capacity reinforcement multiplies these basic values. For Ryuto, whose basic stats are low, Iron Body is more beneficial, although physical capacity reinforcement is a desirable skill in the long run. Ryuto, understanding this, decides that he is fine with the Iron Body skill for now. Ryuto is now able to use physical capacity reinforcement and demonstrates his strength. His mentor asks how he managed to increase his stats so much, and Ryuto explains that anyone can do it if they are not afraid of pain. He also mentions the forbidden skill Demon Gate, surprising his mentor with his knowledge about it. Ryuto explains that the Demon Gate is actually a skill that opens the door where demons live, consuming the user's soul until it is cancelled. Meanwhile, the skills Iron Body and physical capacity reinforcement stop functioning when the user runs out of MP. Ryuto reveals that he knows about the forbidden skill because he died in an accident and saw it, surprising his mentor even more. Bernard questions if Ryuto really wants to learn the Demon Gate skill, knowing that his life will be drained to a near-death condition when his MP runs out. Ryuto confidently responds, reminding him that his MP exceeds 10k, and Bernard admits that he is right. Bernard reflects that if there is anyone who can fully use the Demon Gate, it is Ryuto, indicating the young man's strength and determination. Bernard, holding a sword with a determined look, tells Ryuto that he will become very strong. Ryuto responds with conviction, stating that he has no other choice but this. He shows his determination, clenching his fist, ready to face any challenge ahead. Ryuto, now 12 years old, reflects on the past years dedicated to training. He did everything he could to prepare. His stats show significant growth. His HP increased from 12 to 50, his MP from 10,420 to 12,050, his attack from 15 to 35, his defense from 15 to 35, his magic from 1,923 to 2,154, and his speed from 35 to 55. He has various reinforcement, defense, and life skills, all maximized or significantly improved. Among them are physical capacity reinforcement, iron body, demon gate, strong stomach, mental fortitude, persistence, agricultural cultivation, sword handling, and taijutsu. Now he prepares for the next challenge, knowing he has only one more week. On the first day of the 4th month, Cordelia is having a meal when she is informed that next month she will join the Knight Order. Her father, with a serious expression, explains that she will gain battle experience in the coming years and become a knight at 15. Cordelia appears thoughtful as she absorbs the words, aware of the challenge and responsibility that lies ahead. Cordelia, with a thoughtful and somewhat worried look, reflects on her future in the Knight Order. She understands that she will be put in a delicate situation as an apprentice, and even gaining battle experience, she would not be a respected member of the team immediately. She ponders the reality of facing a real battle and the fear she feels, contrasting with the expectation of a hero not to fear the battlefield. Cordelia feels pressured, but she knows that this is the path she must follow to become a true knight. But she thinks that she will be killing things from now on, something that deeply scares her. Cordelia sits, visibly nervous. Her mother notices and asks if she is afraid. Cordelia, trying to keep her composure, admits that she is. Cordelia mentions that her family receives money as support from the country, but she finds it insulting and wants to change this situation by her own merits. Despite the fear and insecurity, Cordelia decides that she needs to continue, even if it means facing great challenges and dangers. Cordelia's father observes that a hero could not be afraid of something so stupid. He questions if she is really scared, insinuating that, as the heroine designated by the Oracle, she should not have these feelings. Cordelia, sitting and listening to these words, silently reflects, wishing she had perhaps not accepted the destiny imposed by the Oracle. Even so, she forces a smile and tells her father that she is not afraid, trying to hide her true insecurity and fear about her future as a heroine. Cordelia, trying to disguise her vulnerability, apologizes to her father and says she will return to her room. Her father, concerned, asks if she is unwell and offers to take her there. Cordelia, wanting to be alone, politely refuses, saying she is fine and asking not to be disturbed. As she walks away, something unexpected happens. Suddenly, Cordelia releases a power, hitting her father directly. Cordelia realizes that her father was hit by the energy explosion she caused. Desperate, she tries to control the situation and asks her father to hold on. But the expression of pain on his face is evident. Cordelia's father, stunned, is quickly aided by other household members. Cordelia, in shock, repeats to herself that she did not want to cause that. Deep down, she sees everyone's eyes turn to her, judging her and increasing her guilt and despair. Cordelia is visibly shaken, aware that the destructive magic she unleashed has serious implications. This experience only reinforces her fears and uncertainties about the path she must follow. Cordelia, in panic, runs away from the house while trying to understand what just happened. The energy explosion she caused makes no sense to her, and her father's words still echo in her mind. She questions the idea of being a hero, something imposed on her, but now seems distant and unattainable. Her hands tremble as she tries to comprehend the magnitude of the power she possesses. Cordelia is confused and scared, feeling lost and unable to control her own abilities. Desperate, she cries out for help, hoping that someone somewhere can guide her and give her answers about the strength she does not understand and seems out of her control. Today was supposed to be the Flower Festival, an annual event where the city fills with joy, with streets decorated and full of food and drink vendors, celebrating the arrival of spring. Cordelia remembers previous festivities, the laughter, and the colorful flowers, but this year is different. The festival was canceled because, inexplicably, the flowers did not bloom. Sitting alone on a bench, Cordelia reflects on recent events and the confusion in her mind. She feels isolated, lost in her thoughts about her destiny and the expectations placed on her. Suddenly, a familiar voice calls her name, bringing her back to reality. Ryuto appears, calling Cordelia back to reality. He says he was going to fetch her. Cordelia, surprised and emotional, asks if he really came to get her. Ryuto, smiling, says he is happy not to have lost her and mentions that it is a shame what happened with the flower festival. Cordelia, still sad, agrees that the cancellation of the festival is bad, but Ryuto reminds her that she likes flowers and invites her to go with him for a moment, suggesting she change first. Cordelia, touched by the gesture, feels a small hope bloom amidst her sadness. Cordelia reflects on her relationship with Ryuto as they walk hand in hand. She realizes that despite being the same age, Ryuto always seemed reliable, like an adult, like an older brother. She remembers her mother used to do this with her too, and the gesture brings her comfort. As they walk, Cordelia notices that Ryuto's back seemed bigger than in the past. She recognizes that their future paths will be very different, even though they have always been together until now. This realization makes her melancholy, but she also understands that changes are inevitable. Cordelia and Ryuto continue their conversation as they walk. Cordelia expresses her doubts about fighting beasts, describing it as a bunch of cuts and slashes, something that does not seem decent. She questions if it is strange or wrong to find it scary, especially considering she was designated as a heroine by the Oracle. Ryuto, however, encourages her not to carry this burden if she does not want to. He argues that using her life for the country's sake may seem crazy, and she does not need to take on that responsibility if she does not want to. He emphasizes that if she does not like the idea, then she should not do it. Cordelia is in internal conflict between her expectations as a heroine and her own feelings of fear and doubt, while Ryuto tries to lighten her emotional load. Ryuto suggests that they should run away together to somewhere where no one knows Cordelia is a heroine. Cordelia is surprised by the suggestion and begins to imagine what that life would be like, far from the expectations and responsibilities of being a heroine. The idea of escaping and living a peaceful life with Ryuto attracts her, and she thinks about it. This reveals the depth of the bond between Ryuto and Cordelia, as well as Cordelia's internal doubts about her destiny and the expectations that fall upon her. Ryuto appears as a constant support, offering her an alternative to the life she fears facing alone. A short time later, she is surprised when they arrive at a flower field. Ryuto reveals to Cordelia a cherry blossom field he cultivated, mentioning that he got the seeds from an Eastern merchant 6 years ago. Cordelia is delighted with the sight of the flowers and expresses her joy, saying it is the first time she has seen these flowers. Ryuto explains that he created that place, showing his care and effort in bringing something beautiful to Cordelia. Ryuto explains to Cordelia that he used the agricultural cultivation skill to create the cherry blossom field because he knows she likes flowers. He reveals that he did it just for her. Cordelia is moved by Ryuto's gesture and begins to feel a new emotion within herself. She wonders what this feeling is, while Ryuto watches and understands what is happening to her. Everyone has different roles. Cordelia reflects on the power that was granted to her, realizing she is not the only one with special abilities. Ryuto, as a villager, has the agricultural cultivation skill, and that's how things are. Cordelia reflects on the meaning of her hero power and the purpose of fighting. She acknowledges that her power is to protect important people from senseless violence. With determination, she declares that she will do her best and thanks Ryuto for the support. After that, Cordelia asks if it's not too much and also asks how long it took. Ryuto responds 7 years, saying it's important to start slowly from the basics first. Cordelia, quite excited, says that even so, they said the flowers would not grow this year. Ryuto is silent for a few seconds, and after that, he says that a great calamity might be on the way. A great calamity? Cordelia asked, surprised. I felt it with my agricultural cultivation skill. Ryuto responded, trying to explain. Or something like that, but you don't understand. It's okay, Cordelia smiled, trying to reassure him. I got the impression that the spirits of the lands are somehow distorted. Ryuto continued, worried. Cordelia, determined, stated, because no matter what happens, I will protect you as a heroine. Yeah, Ryuto responded, calmer. Looking at Cordelia, Ryuto thought, that day, I could only stand watching Cordelia wounded. 2 days later, Cordelia was walking down the road, her sword firmly in hand, as the goblins approached with cruel smiles and evil looks. She was ready to face any danger that came her way. No matter what happens, I will protect you. Cordelia remembered Ryuto's words as she faced the goblins ahead. This village where he and I grew up, she gripped the sword, determined. This is the path of my life. Unable to escape this destiny, she prepared for the imminent battle, determined to protect everything she loved. Ryuto ran through the village streets, determined and with clenched fists. In the distance, he saw goblins causing chaos and destruction. Kite, he heard one of them shout. His mind was focused on one thing, protecting his village. As he advanced, the malicious laughter of the goblins echoed around him. They were ready to attack, but Ryuto would not be intimidated. Ryuto charged forward with determination, but before he could attack, a goblin knocked him down with an unexpected blow. Pain exploded in his body as he fell to the ground. However, his peripheral vision caught a quick and graceful movement. Cordelia, with her sword in hand, jumped into the air with deadly precision, taking down several goblins in a single motion. She spun in the air, her blade slicing through enemies effortlessly. The goblins barely had time to react before being struck down. Cordelia's skill and strength were undeniable. Even amidst the battle's chaos, Ryuto felt a wave of admiration for her courage and prowess. Cordelia looked desperately at Ryuto, the concern evident on her blood and dust-stained face. Ryuto, are you alive? Ryuto, still dazed from the fall, quickly looked around. He saw a goblin approaching, brandishing a weapon. Cordelia, with a shout of determination, charged at the goblins. I'm fine, so I'm here, because I'm going to take them all down. Ryuto watched her, surprised and impressed by her displayed strength. Cordelia, he murmured, feeling his admiration grow. I delayed my escape on purpose, Ryuto thought, observing the events around him. I need to do everything I can to imitate the events of the past. If I lend my strength to pursue and kill the goblin army, I won't be able to enter their nest. He remembered the faces of Cordelia and the others who were counting on him. The story will change, and if that red dragon doesn't appear. Determined, Ryuto knew his actions carried weight. That's why. He clenched his fists, ready to face whatever came his way, knowing each decision could alter the course of destiny. That is, Ryuto thought as he watched the goblin advancing with a spear. The black magic that caused that rotten scar on Cordelia's left arm. Cordelia was fighting with all her might, facing the goblins with skill. Ryuto remembered the first time he saw that scar. She always wore long sleeves, even in summer. It's okay like this. She won't die from this. He continued to watch the battle, worried, but at the same time confident in Cordelia's abilities. Why am I thinking about why I want to get stronger? To become a hero? To become part of some hero's group? It's not that. What I really want. Ryuto deeply reflected while training alongside Cordelia. The image of knights and the hero came to his mind, but he knew his true desire went beyond joining them. Why am I silently sharpening my fangs? Isn't it for a moment like this? Ryuto reflected on his true purpose. In his mind, he confronted the reality of his existence and his desire to become stronger. He remembered the name Ryuto Mulane, but felt it wasn't the complete truth. No, my name is E.G. Ryuto, he declared with conviction, determined to follow his path and face the challenges ahead. Ryuto watched closely as his combat skills activated. The Demon Path skill came into action, followed by physical ability enhancement and Iron Body. He attacked the goblins with relentless fury, his body moving with superhuman strength and speed. Every blow he struck left a deep mark on the enemies, who fell one by one before his assault. Ryuto charged forward with determination, his hand clenched into a firm fist. He felt the adrenaline rushing through his veins as he took down the goblins with a powerful blow. He panted but couldn't help but smile. I did it, he thought, still incredulous at his own strength. But the battle was far from over. Ryuto continued his fierce assault, delivering precise and devastating blows against the goblins. He was surrounded, but his unshakable spirit and unwavering determination gave him strength. Every move was calculated, every strike executed with innate skill. The goblins fell one by one, unable to withstand the fury of the young warrior. Ryuto knew he couldn't afford to hesitate. He needed to win, not just to protect himself, but to protect those who depended on him. Ryuto looked at his bloodied hand, feeling the persistent pain. There's still this pain, even with persistence in effect, he thought. Of course, this body is still that of a child, and it's the same for Cordelia. Hey, Cordelia, said Ryuto, his voice trembling slightly. For what we did before, we made her a hero, we sacrificed her, for a distortion in her life. Cordelia looked at Ryuto, surprised and moved. Are you fighting? You're a villager, so please run, she shouted, concerned. Ryuto raised his head, determined. Leave the rest to me, he exclaimed, gripping his weapon tightly. He knew he couldn't back down now. I am the strongest villager in the world, Ryuto shouted, his voice echoing across the battlefield. With a determined expression, he wielded his sword, facing the goblin army before him. His eyes shone with unwavering resolution, and his body, though injured, emanated an aura of strength and determination. What's happening? A woman's worried voice echoed in the air as she tried to see beyond the confusion. I can't see well from here. Another woman, with tears in her eyes, murmured, but it looks like Ryuto of the Moline is there. His mother, with a determined expression, wielded a farming tool as if it were a weapon. Ryuto-chan, Mom is coming to help you now, she shouted, desperate to get through the crowd. Don't do it, his father tried to hold her back. We can't let her open the door. Sorry, but can I take a look? He asked, trying to stay calm amid the chaos. His father, observing everything, reflected. Ryuto, you've been doing things secretly all this time. But what was the point of all this? The doubt hung in the air as the tension mounted. The goblin's weapons sliced through the air, but Ryuto dodged with agility, reflecting, the goblin's weapons are so fragile. Beside him, a villager shouted in despair, My barn, as he watched the goblins destroying everything around. Ryuto, determined, charged with a powerful punch. The scene turned into a chaos of blows and screams as the goblins advanced, fearless and disorganized. Amid the tumult, Ryuto remained calm, focused on protecting the village and its inhabitants. With an agile movement, Ryuto threw the tool, which cut through the air with a deadly hiss. The impact was devastating, hitting the goblin squarely, making it recoil in pain and surprise. Ryuto smiled, satisfied with the result. As expected of the village chief's tool, he murmured as he prepared for the next attack. It would be good to have them. The goblins around recoiled, terrified by Ryuto's unexpected strength, who advanced relentlessly, determined to protect the village at any cost. Ryuto advanced with speed, delivering quick and precise blows against the goblins. They barely had time to react before being hit, their weak weapons useless against the young villager's strength. With a shout of determination, Ryuto activated his skill. Skill, activate, agricultural cultivation. Immediately, massive roots emerged from the ground, entangling and immobilizing the goblins. The power of nature, controlled by Ryuto, transformed the battlefield into a tangle of vines and roots. Oops, seems I can't use it without a declared purpose, Ryuto thought as he watched the goblins approach. Ryuto faced the imposing goblin in front of him, his heart racing. Are you the boss? He asked, trying to keep his voice steady. The goblin, with its threatening armor, only growled in response, raising its weapon to attack. Ryuto gripped his sword tightly, ready for the confrontation. The goblin then launched a powerful attack, but Ryuto managed to defend. Ryuto slightly retreated as he realized the goblin boss's strength and speed. He's fast and heavy, he thought, his eyes widening in surprise. The goblin attacked with relentless ferocity, delivering quick and powerful blows. Ryuto dodged as best he could, but the impact of one blow knocked him to the ground. Feeling the pain pulsate through his body, Cordelia watched in panic as Ryuto faced the goblin boss. "Ryuto!" she shouted, her eyes wide with concern. With an agile movement, Ryuto managed to dodge the goblin's brutal attack. He counterattacked with precision, hitting the creature with surprising strength. The goblin roared in pain, a tremulous sound that echoed through the village. Ryuto and Cordelia then stood side by side, observing the immense creature before them. The dragon, imposing and threatening, moved slowly, its presence dominating the battlefield. The oracle required it, and it was supposed to be. In a dangerous situation for the small people here. What exactly happened here? The dragon asked, trying to understand the gravity of the moment. "Read my thoughts. This way is faster," said Ryuto. The dragon, motionless, fixed its eyes on Ryuto. The connection between their minds was immediate. "With this, I can't deny you. I will take you to the dragon's nest," affirmed the dragon with conviction. "So you will take me?" Ryuto asked. "Dragons can't lie," affirmed the dragon. "Well, you are someone who keeps your word, aren't you?" added Ryuto, a smile forming on his lips. The dragon responded with a slight nod, confirming. Ryuto laughed, relieved, feeling excitement and relief rush through his body. Cordelia looked at Ryuto, worried, and asked, "Where do you plan to go, Ryuto?" "To the dragon's nest. I won't return for a few years," Ryuto replied, determined. "You are the heroine. Even though I'm stronger now, you will catch up to me in a year," said Ryuto, admiringly. "Finally leaving the village for several years, becoming as strong as a monster. Helping a heroine even though I'm a villager," Cordelia said. "It's something I need to do. Normal people can't compare to you," continued Ryuto, explaining his intentions. Cordelia felt her heart tighten upon hearing Ryuto's words. A villager being stronger than a hero, she thought, the pain of separation evident on her face. "Comparing you to me, you have no reason to do this, do you?" she asked, tears beginning to flow. "No, but Ryuto began, but was interrupted by Cordelia. "Doing all this while I knew nothing. You were doing these crazy things without anyone knowing, weren't you?" "Can't I just protect you?" Cordelia asked, her voice trembling with emotion. "Could you not be crazy and fight so hard against it? I'm saying I definitely hate it." Cordelia could barely contain her tears at the thought of not being able to meet Ryuto for several years. Cordelia was surprised when Ryuto suddenly hugged her. "Huh?" she managed to murmur, trying to process what was happening. With a determined look, Ryuto whispered close to her ear, "I will definitely come back, so wait a little longer." Ryuto, mounted on an imposing dragon, looked at Cordelia one last time before leaving. "Goodbye," he shouted as the dragon began to take flight, leaving Cordelia behind, watching him depart. Cordelia, with tears in her eyes, shouted as she watched Ryuto leave mounted on the dragon. "Aren't you deciding everything based on your own wills? That idiot! Even if you come back, I will never listen to you again." Ryuto, mounted on the dragon, looked determinedly at the horizon as he thought. "To be able to bear all of Cordelia's duties, I will become stronger and definitely return." Ryuto was running through the village streets, determined and with clenched fists. In the distance, he saw goblins causing chaos and destruction. "Kite," he heard one of them shout. His mind was focused on one thing, protecting his village. As he advanced, the malicious laughter of the goblins echoed around him. They were ready to attack, but Ryuto would not be intimidated. Ryuto advanced with determination, but before he could attack, a goblin knocked him down with an unexpected blow. Pain exploded in his body as he fell to the ground. However, his peripheral vision caught a quick and graceful movement. Cordelia, with her sword in hand, jumped into the air with deadly precision, taking down several goblins in one move. She spun in the air, her blade cutting through the enemies effortlessly. The goblins barely had time to react before being struck down. Cordelia's skill and strength were undeniable. Even in the chaos of battle, Ryuto felt a wave of admiration for her courage and skill. Cordelia looked desperately at Ryuto, the concern evident on her bloodied and dusty face. "Ryuto, are you alive?" Ryuto, still dazed from the fall, looked around quickly. He saw a goblin approaching, brandishing a weapon. Cordelia, with a cry of determination, advanced against the goblins. "I am fine, so I am here because I will take them all down." Ryuto watched her, surprised and impressed by the strength she demonstrated. "Cordelia," he murmured, feeling his admiration grow. "I delayed my escape on purpose," Ryuto thought, observing the events around him. I need to do everything I can to imitate the events of the past. If I lend my strength to chase and kill the goblin army, I won't be able to enter its nest. He remembered the faces of Cordelia and the others who were counting on him. The story will change, and if that red dragon doesn't appear. Determined, Ryuto knew his actions had weight. For that reason, he clenched his fists, ready to face whatever came his way, even knowing that every decision could alter the course of destiny. This is, Ryuto thought as he watched the goblin advance with a spear, the dark magic that caused that rotten scar on Cordelia's left arm. Cordelia was fighting with all her might, facing the goblins with skill. Ryuto remembered the first time he saw that scar. She always wore long sleeves, even in the summer. It's okay like this. She won't die from this. He continued to watch the battle, worried, but at the same time confident in Cordelia's abilities. Why am I thinking about why I want to get stronger? To become a hero? To become part of some hero's group? It's not that. What I really want, Ryuto reflected deeply as he trained alongside Cordelia. The image of knights and the hero came to his mind, but he knew his true desire went beyond joining them. Why am I silently sharpening my fangs? Isn't it for a moment like this? Ryuto reflected on his true purpose. In his mind, he confronted the reality of his existence and his desire to become stronger. He recalled the name Ryuto Moline, but felt it wasn't the complete truth. No, my name is Iji Maryuto, he declared with conviction, determined to follow his path and face the challenges ahead. Ryuto watched closely as his combat abilities activated. The skill Demon's Path came into action, followed by physical capacity enhancement and iron body. He attacked the goblins with relentless fury, his body moving with superhuman strength and speed. Each blow he delivered left a deep mark on the enemies, who fell one by one before his onslaught. Ryuto advanced with determination, his hand clenched into a firm fist. He felt the adrenaline coursing through his veins as he took down the goblins with a powerful blow. He panted but couldn't help but smile. I did it, he thought, still incredulous at his own strength. But the battle was not yet over. Ryuto continued his fierce onslaught, delivering precise and devastating blows against the goblins. He was surrounded, but his unwavering spirit and unbreakable determination gave him strength. Every move was calculated, every blow executed with innate skill. The goblins fell one by one, unable to withstand the fury of the young warrior. Ryuto knew he couldn't afford to hesitate. He needed to win, not just to protect himself, but to protect those who depended on him. Ryuto looked at his bloodied hand, feeling the persistent pain. There's still this pain, even with persistence in effect, he thought. Of course, this body is still that of a child, and that's the same for Cordelia. Hey, Cordelia, Ryuto said, his voice trembling slightly. For what we did before, we made her a heroine, we sacrificed her, for a distortion in her life. Cordelia looked at Ryuto, surprised and moved. Are you fighting? You are a villager, so please, run, she shouted, concerned. Ryuto raised his head, determined. Leave the rest to me, he exclaimed, gripping his weapon firmly. He knew he couldn't retreat now. I am the strongest villager in the world, Ryuto shouted, his voice echoing across the battlefield. With a determined expression, he wielded his sword, facing the goblin army before him. His eyes shone with unshakable resolve, and his body, though injured, emanated an aura of strength and determination. What's happening? The concern in a woman's voice echoed in the air as she tried to see beyond the confusion. I can't see well from here. Another woman, with tears in her eyes, murmured, but it looks like Ryuto from the Moline is there. His mother, with a determined expression, wielded a farming tool as if it were a weapon. Ryuto-chan, Mom is coming to help you now, she shouted, desperate to cross the crowd. Don't do it, his father tried to hold her back. We can't let her open the door. Sorry, but can I take a look, he asked, trying to stay calm amid the chaos. His father, observing everything, reflected. Ryuto, you've been doing things secretly all this time. But what was the point of it all? The doubt hung in the air as the tension increased. The goblins' weapons cut through the air, but Ryuto dodged with agility, reflecting. The goblins' weapons are so fragile. Beside him, a villager shouted in despair, My barn, as he watched the goblins destroying everything around. Ryuto, determined, advanced with a powerful punch. The scene turned into a chaos of blows and screams as the goblins advanced, fearless and disorganized. Amid the turmoil, Ryuto kept his calm, focused on protecting the village and its residents. With an agile move, Ryuto threw the tool, which cut through the air with a deadly whistle. The impact was devastating, hitting the goblin squarely, making it recoil in pain and surprise. Ryuto smiled, satisfied with the result. As expected of the village chief's tool, he murmured, preparing for the next attack. It would be good to have them. The goblins around recoiled, terrified by Ryuto's unexpected strength, who advanced relentlessly, determined to protect the village at any cost. Ryuto advanced with speed, delivering quick and precise blows against the goblins. They barely had time to react before being hit, their weak weapons being useless against the young villagers' strength. With a cry of determination, Ryuto activated his ability. Skill. Activate. Agricultural cultivation. Immediately, massive roots emerged from the ground, entangling and immobilizing the goblins. The force of nature, controlled by Ryuto, turned the battlefield into a tangled mass of vines and roots. Oops, looks like I can't use it without a declared purpose, Ryuto thought as he watched the goblins approaching. Ryuto faced the imposing goblin in front of him, his heart beating fast. "Are you the boss?" he asked, trying to keep his voice steady. The goblin, with its menacing armor, only growled in response, raising its weapon to attack. Ryuto gripped his sword tightly, prepared for the confrontation. Then the goblin launched a powerful attack, but Ryuto managed to defend. Ryuto retreated slightly as he realized the goblin boss's strength and speed. "He's fast and heavy," he thought, his eyes widening in surprise. The goblin attacked with relentless ferocity, delivering quick and powerful blows. Ryuto dodged as best he could, but the impact of one blow threw him to the ground, feeling the pain throbbing in his body. Cordelia watched in panic as Ryuto faced the goblin boss. "Ryuto!" she shouted, her eyes wide with concern. With an agile move, Ryuto managed to dodge the goblin's brutal attack. He counterattacked with precision, hitting the creature with surprising force. The goblin howled in pain, a trembling sound that echoed through the village. Then Ryuto and Cordelia stood side by side, watching the immense creature before them. The dragon, imposing and threatening, moved slowly, its presence dominating the battlefield. The oracle required it, and it was supposed to be. In a dangerous situation for the small people here, what exactly happened here? The dragon asked, trying to understand the gravity of the moment. "Read my thoughts. This way is faster," Ryuto said. The dragon, motionless, fixed its eyes on Ryuto. The connection between their minds was immediate. "With that, I can't deny you. I will take you to the dragon's nest," the dragon affirmed with conviction. "So you're going to take me?" Ryuto asked. "Dragons can't lie," the dragon affirmed. "Well, you're someone who keeps your word, aren't you?" added Ryuto, a smile forming on his lips. The dragon responded with a slight nod, confirming. Ryuto laughed, relieved, feeling the excitement and relief coursing through his body. Cordelia looked at Ryuto, concerned, and asked, "Where you plan to go, Ryuto?" "To the dragon's nest. I won't return for a few years," Ryuto replied with determination. "You are the heroine. Even though I am stronger now, you will catch up with me in a year," said Ryuto, admiring her. "Finally leaving the village for several years, becoming strong like a monster. Helping a heroine even as a villager," Cordelia said. "It's something I need to do. Normal people can't compare to you," Ryuto continued, explaining his intentions. Cordelia felt her heart tighten upon hearing Ryuto's words. A villager being stronger than a hero, she thought, the pain of separation evident on her face. "Comparing you to me, you have no reason to do this, do you?" she asked, tears beginning to flow. "No, but Ryuto began, but was interrupted by Cordelia. "Doing all this while I knew nothing. You were doing these crazy things without anyone knowing, weren't you? Can't I just protect you?" Cordelia asked, her voice trembling with emotion. "Could you not be crazy and fight so hard against this? I'm saying I definitely hate it." Cordelia could barely contain her tears at the thought of not being able to meet Ryuto for several years. Cordelia was surprised when Ryuto suddenly hugged her. "Huh?" she managed to murmur, trying to process what was happening. With a determined look, Ryuto whispered near her ear, "I will definitely come back, so wait a little longer." Ryuto, mounted on an imposing dragon, looked at Cordelia one last time before leaving. "Goodbye," he shouted as the dragon began to take flight, leaving Cordelia behind, watching him depart. Cordelia, with tears in her eyes, shouted as she watched Ryuto leave mounted on the dragon. Are you not deciding everything based on your own will? That idiot! Even if you come back, I will never listen to you again. Ryuto, mounted on the dragon, looked determinedly at the horizon as he thought. To be able to bear all of Cordelia's duties, I will become stronger and definitely return. The Dragon's Nest. In the middle of the continent, there is an unexplored area in the deepest part of the Great Forest. In the nest, all the dragons transform into humans. It seems they do this because it's more practical for building structures and making clothes. There are no limits to what a human body can do. Anyway, the Dragon King's library is unexpectedly large. I prefer what came the day before, said the little girl, looking at the man in front of her with a serious expression. I need to be able to meet the Dragon King, Ryuto said determinedly. Call him Lord, Sama. Add Lord, said the old man. This old man with an incredible abdomen is the human form of the red dragon that brought me here, Ryuto reflected, observing the man attentively. Why should I take care of an annoying brat? Grumbled the old man, crossing his arms. So, I need to be able to meet the Dragon King Sama. Isn't this the reception? Ryuto exclaimed, his voice full of determination. The Dragon King Sama is a sacred being of the entire Naga race. He will only meet with those he chooses, explained the old man seriously. You still don't understand either. I beg you, do something about it, Ryuto said, looking at the little girl in desperation. My name is Lilith. That's the name my parents gave me, Lilith declared firmly. Ah, sorry, said Ryuto, scratching his head. And you haven't paid for these bracelets yet, Lilith noted, looking sternly at Ryuto. Normally, the dragon race only accepts those who are not yet 12 years old. As I see it, you appear to be 12 years old. They react to the user's stats and produce 1 to 5 gold rings based on their classification. All humans living in the dragon's nest need to wear this bracelet, she continued, showing the bracelet on her wrist. So to meet the Lord Dragon Sama, I have to reach level 5 of strength? Ryuto asked, surprised. Take a look at my stats. Why didn't you say that before? He exclaimed, extending his arm to Lilith. You received permission to meet the Dragon King Sama. In 2 hours, it would be good, Lilith informed after seeing his stats. Librarian. What are you talking about? The old man asked, still astonished. I can't believe it. What on earth are you? The old man shouted, shocked. Why are you surprised? Didn't you read my thoughts? Ryuto said, confused. I thought it was strange that you had a magical barrier. I guess it will be difficult even for the Dragon King Sama to read your thoughts completely. In other words, it's very difficult to use mental magic effectively against you, Ryuto explained, smiling. That helps a lot, the old man pondered, trying to understand the situation. I can only read things aloud by the user, the old man added casually. That removes the need for an ability that defends against abnormal conditions, Ryuto exclaimed, raising his hand in a gesture of relief. Lilith watched, unreactive. Thank you, Lilith-san. Ryuto thanked, smiling broadly, while the old man seemed exhausted, almost fainting. Human-kun, you can lift your head, said the man in a suit, holding a card. A reincarnated. Huh, he murmured, observing Ryuto. Ryuto, still kneeling, slowly raised his head. No way a human child with these stats isn't a reincarnated, continued the man, evaluating the information on the card. Have there been any other reincarnated? Ryuto asked, curious. A friend of mine from the past, You understand my style, don't you? Aesthetic style, said the man, excited. These clothes are too advanced for this world, as they are very rare. I think they suit you, Ryuto praised. Where did you get them? Ryuto asked. They came floating by luck, just like your soul, the man explained. I think I have 5 travel cases. I got all this by luck, the man said, excited. What kind of conversation is this? The old man wondered, confused. The Dragon King's library. I give you permission to read all the books, said the Dragon King Sama, gesturing. Dragon King Sama, if this person causes trouble in the library, I can't bear that burden. I am currently in charge of this person, the old man exclaimed, surprised. Ah, regarding that, I will change his custody from you to the Red Dragon race to me, declared the Dragon King Sama. Anyone with 5 rings on that bracelet has the same rights as the Dragon race. Continued the Dragon King Sama. Or we could introduce him to the Dragon race with an official ceremony. What does that mean? Ryuto asked, confused. It's a special treatment that has never been mentioned before. Instead of treating you as a sin, we will fully accept you as one of us." "That's what the Dragon King Sama is saying," the old man exclaimed, almost in a state of panic. "I didn't say you could lift your head, did I?" said the Dragon King Sama, looking intently. The old man froze in fear, unable to respond. Quickly, the old man knelt. Ryuto reacted, trying to compose himself. "I was deceived by your lightness," he murmured to himself, slowly getting up. "It seems he can turn me into ashes whenever he wants," Ryuto thought, observing the Dragon King Sama. "Well, even so, I won't change my casual way of speaking," Ryuto declared to himself, challenging him. "Why are you giving me special treatment?" Ryuto asked, the curiosity evident on his face. The Dragon King Sama, with an enigmatic smile, replied, "I have 2 reasons." The Dragon King Sama looked at Ryuto and explained, "The first are your stats. It's distorted. Only your MP is higher than mine." Ryuto listened attentively, and then the Dragon King Sama continued, "For that, I have the duty to respect that." Ryuto, confused, asked, "Is that all?" The Dragon King Sama responded calmly, "That's all. That's what it means to respect the strongest." The Dragon King Sama looked directly at Ryuto and concluded, "Anyway, this is your second attempt at life in this world, isn't it?" Ryuto, still intrigued, reflected, "Why is he saying this fact in question? Yes, that's right. That's the other reason why I'm giving you special treatment," said the Dragon King Sama, looking directly at Ryuto. "Because of your irregular existence, you understand that your actions are leading this world to destruction?" completed the Dragon King Sama with a serious expression. Ryuto was shocked by the revelation, his face reflecting surprise and confusion. "Am I the cause of the world's destruction?" Ryuto asked, visibly confused and worried. "Ah, you have no self-awareness. The princess you are protecting is one of the 4 oracle heroes in this world and was the most important people who will save the world from the great calamity," said the Dragon King Sama, observing Ryuto's reaction. "To cleanse the darkness of calamity with the swords of hope, that's a hero's duty," concluded the Dragon King resolutely. "That's right," replied Ryuto, confused. "Heroes shouldn't be the strongest among all, those who save the weak by exorcising demons?" Ryuto continued, his face showing determination. The Dragon King Sama asked with a smile. "Where are you getting at?" Ryuto asked. "What happens if a villager protects a hero?" questioned the Dragon King, leaving Ryuto with an expression of confusion and fear. "Since you repelled the goblins at that time, the story is going crazy," the voice echoed in his mind, leaving Ryuto even more disturbed. "Story. Going. Crazy," he repeated to himself, trying to understand the meaning behind those words. "She should have a severe wound for defending you," the Dragon King's voice echoed in his mind, with images of battle emerging. Taking advantage of that, and what's more, by not relying on her as a hero, she should have pushed herself to the limit to become stronger. Or that's how it should have been, the imposing figure of the Dragon King continued. "Isn't that the same feeling you have now?" asked the Dragon King, making Ryuto reflect. "The same as me?" he questioned himself, his heart tight and mind confused. Pushing her into a corner, "I'm talking about the feeling of wanting to be stronger to protect those who are precious to you. That's stronger than anything," declared the Dragon King, with an intense look. "That's," Ryuto began, but was interrupted. A 15-year-old girl was named a Dragon Slayer. "Even for a hero, do you think anyone would get there just by whim or bravery?" continued the Dragon King, not averting his gaze. "No, but..." Ryuto tried to respond, his hand on his head as he tried to process the words. The goblin attack was an event to awaken her. The group that was supposed to be saved ended up becoming the saving group. "Don't you think that's enough to change everything?" "But you took care of that," finished the Dragon King, leaving Ryuto stunned. "That was a destiny decided by the world, and well, now we will face the uncertainty of pursuing a different path." The Dragon King spoke with a serious expression. "Dragon Slayer also translates to the one who massacres us. That's the title given to the hero who put all their effort and life into training and achieving. Even so, I can't predict everything, and I don't know in what form the great calamity will come. However," he paused, looking directly at Ryuto. "The world has fallen into a condition of great destruction." Ryuto was silent, listening to the words, and so on. "But first, you are a human child. The Dragon King continued, his voice firm. "I'm a little disappointed," he said, running his hand through his hair. "Well, but that's not irrational, since your actions are at a level of changing the world." Ryuto, with his head down, felt the weight in his words. "She won't become a heroine anymore?" Ryuto asked, his voice trembling. The Dragon King sighed. "This time, she won't be able to win against the evil dragon, and she will definitely be killed," he stated, looking at the horizon with a somber gaze. Ryuto, with burning determination in his eyes, faced the Dragon King. "So she just needs to become stronger, doesn't she?" Ryuto declared, clenching his fists. The Dragon King, surprised by Ryuto's determination, was silent for a moment. "I will be much stronger," Ryuto continued, his voice firm and resolute. "More than the Dragon Slayer? No, more than the heroes." The Dragon King looked at Ryuto, surprised by the boy's determination. "So a villager will suppress the evil dragon," he murmured, still processing Ryuto's audacity. Ryuto, without losing his spirit, smiled confidently. "I originally planned to be her substitute to take all this weight," he explained, "so it would be okay for me to become the hero in her place." The Dragon King started to laugh, amused by the young man's audacity. "I get it. So you will be the guardian of the heroine anyway?" Ryuto confirmed with a nod. "Yeah." "Then hurry and give me the divine protection of the Dragon King," demanded Ryuto, his hand extended toward the Dragon King, confidence shining in his eyes. The Dragon King placed his hand on Ryuto's head, the weight of his presence almost overwhelming. "A human scum like you. Getting carried away too much?" His voice was full of contempt, the gaze severe. Ryuto remained firm, his expression determined. "The dragon race is more efficient," he admitted, "but I am willing to sell my soul to the demon race." The fierce glow in Ryuto's eyes showed he wasn't joking. The Dragon King looked at Ryuto with a malicious smile. "The demon race? Do you understand what you are saying?" "Of course, I didn't want this," replied Ryuto, his words firm. "That's why I am bowing my head to you." The Dragon King maintained his cold expression. "Do you think I would let someone who even insinuated a contract with the demons continue living?" The old man was still on his knees and thought, "I want to go home." The Dragon King laughed, his hand still pressing on Ryuto's head. "I will listen to your last request, if you have any." Ryuto looked defiantly at the Dragon King. "You really like these kinds of games, don't you?" he said, with a slight smile on his face. The Dragon King narrowed his eyes, his hand still firm on Ryuto's head. "Yeah, I really like it." The Dragon King started to laugh loudly. "People like you are my favorites." Ryuto felt a powerful energy coursing through his body as the Dragon King held him firmly. "This is," he murmured, feeling his heart beat faster. "The divine protection of the Dragon King," exclaimed the Dragon King with a confident smile. Ryuto, still surprised, thought, "With this, I can level up without any restriction." The Dragon King continued, "Most of the time, it makes the primary negative factors of a villager obsolete, even when you level up." Ryuto looked at his hands, still feeling the energy flowing. "Incredible. One thing I was unlucky to have in this world is the XP accumulation permission system. In other words, this is different from a game. The definition of how you gain XP is by taking the opponent's life force and using it to strengthen physical and magical abilities. However, I always remained at level 1. Additionally, jobs are a divine curse of level growth limit. That's where the title Divine Protection of the Dragon King comes in. It overwrites the growth limit of a villager to that of a dragon race. Dragon. Draconic, perhaps not better than someone of the hero class, but they have one of the highest growth limits among various high classes. They are similar to sages. I will level up and become stronger here," said Ryuto with determination. Ryuto, looking at the watch on the dragon's wrist, asked, "Isn't that watch quite beautiful?" The dragon responded calmly, "It's almost time. Anything else?" With a smile, Ryuto replied, "Actually, that's all I need." Curious, the dragon asked, "What do you plan to do after this?" Ryuto, full of determination, declared, "Work hard to level up quickly." The official Miracle Authority carefully noted the villagers' words. 2 days after the goblin attack, the country quickly dispatched some investigators to check the village's condition. People were instructed to say that it was a cloudy memory due to the unrestricted use of magic. The investigators will probably report what happened as the result of the heroine's efforts. There were no eyewitnesses, they said. They imposed a law that removed information about Ryuto's birth. Cordelia was visibly disturbed, struggling to find the right words. Mulane-san, I can't put it into words well, but Ryuto was taken to the dragon's nest, and I think it was my fault. Tears began to stream down her face. Because of me, he did something crazy, put his life on the line. Mulane, hearing this, approached quickly. Don't be afraid, Cordelia-sama. Cordelia, desperate, leaned forward, apologizing with all the emotion she felt. I'm sorry. Cordelia was visibly worried, but Mulane tried to reassure her. He went on a journey of his own will, Mulane explained, trying to ease the situation. Boys like to look cool in front of girls. His mother beside him smiled gently, adding, and also, he said, your cute son is going on a trip. Cordelia began to calm down, and the mother continued, we will protect the place he can return to. That's why. It's okay, Cordelia-chan. Cordelia smiled shyly, wiping away the tears. Yes, inside the underground labyrinth, the first trial in the Rite of Trials was terrifying. A colossal monster emerged, its claws and teeth threatening, ready to attack. Ryuto screamed in despair, his voice echoing through the labyrinth walls. No way, no way, no way. His fear was palpable. He saw no way to defeat the immense creature. Monsters summoned for the trial can't leave the room. My visit here was planned for a few months, and the troublesome cause of that is, Ryuto, distressed, exclaimed, there's no other way but this. He was clearly in a panic, holding his head. Lilith, with a serious expression, asked, what are you going to do? Retreat. The Rite of Trials is impossible for a level 1 villager. In the Dragon King's library, Ryuto was absorbed in his thoughts when Lilith approached, carrying some books. There are even low-level guys among the dragon race. However, Ryuto murmured, lifting his eyes to meet Lilith's curious gaze. Is it looking like? She began, observing him attentively. A fight, Ryuto exclaimed, trying to guess what she was about to say. I heard you are leaving the dragon's nest tomorrow. Is that true? Ryuto asked, his eyes shining with a mix of curiosity and concern. I suppose so, Ryuto replied, his expression softening at seeing Lilith's reaction. Why did I come here? Ryuto questioned, looking directly at her. This has nothing to do with you, she replied. Lilith, with a serious look, responded, I don't have a guardian. I understand. Those without guardians are forced to leave. However, a condition for humans to live in the dragon's nest is that their existence is observed by a dragon, Lilith explained. The earth dragon who took care of me was very powerful and kind. A month ago, he became senile. I understand, thought Ryuto. Those without guardians are forced to leave. However, it's cruel to leave a child like that, Ryuto said with a worried expression. Can't we do something about this? He asked, noting that she was a person with the ability to have 3 golden rings. Lilith, with a sad look, revealed a mark on her shoulder, a slave crest. Her eyes were downcast, reflecting the pain of her past. What? Ryuto began to ask, the surprise evident on his face. As the name suggests, a mark given to slaves, Lilith explained, her voice soft but filled with sadness. Ryuto, observing the mark, felt a mix of anger and compassion. The worst, he murmured to himself, trying to control the storm of emotions within him. Lilith, with a sad and resigned look, explained the meaning of the slave crest she carried. It's a skill that performs a complete brainwashing, she said, her voice sounding distant. A type of curse that can't be disregarded or erased. The slave crest is a symbol of weakness. Ryuto, listening attentively, felt a weight in his heart. The project of the slave crest is, Lilith continued, struggling to find the words, making it so that this person cannot disobey the rules. Before coming here, I was already a slave before even reaching an age of discernment. Even now, I continue to be a child and still unable to do anything. Ryuto observed Lilith, feeling the gravity of the situation. I understand what will happen to Lilith if she is left to return to the world now, he thought, determined to find a way to help his friend. Lilith smiled softly, trying to reassure Ryuto. I'm fine, she said. I have the name Lilith that was given to me by my father. With that name, I can continue living anywhere. Those words of courage and determination showed Lilith's inner strength, despite the difficulties she faced. Ryuto observed her with admiration and renewed his commitment to help her find a better future. Ryuto, holding a bag full of items, declared with determination, "Lilith and I will isolate ourselves in a dungeon soon." He was focused and determined to prepare for the challenges ahead. Lilith, looking at Ryuto, noticed the seriousness and commitment in his eyes. Ryuto continued, "Make the preparations for your journey." Ryuto's resolution to become stronger and protect Lilith was stronger than ever. Ryuto, resting against a wall, reflected on his journey and the challenge he faced. He commented, "I am a human, but welcomed as a draconic citizen." He had challenged the dungeon in a moment of anger and now was dealing with the consequences. Lilith, concerned, asked if he had any medicine for his wounds. While taking care of himself, Ryuto continued, "And that's why I'm going through all these formalities to become a mature dragon, the rite of trials." With determination, he declared his goal, to become Lilith's guardian. Lilith, with a determined expression, looked at Ryuto and said, "I understand that you are the strongest level 1 villager." She was happy he was trying to help her, but added firmly, "But please, don't risk your life." Ryuto said, "I have my decision ready for the slaves who are expelled from the dragon's nest." Lilith knew the dangers she would face, but didn't want Ryuto to put himself at risk for her. Ryuto, in response, shouted with conviction, "Stop that!" Ryuto, with a determined expression, hit his fist against the wall, leaving a visible crack. "Don't be so quick to degrade yourself for being a slave," he shouted, his words full of conviction. Lilith, with a worried expression, tried to convince him, "You still have time to retreat now and challenge this place after leveling up." But Ryuto was not willing to retreat. "This is determination," he declared firmly, his gaze fixed and determined. Lilith, understanding the gravity of the situation, murmured, "I would be in trouble if you died senselessly for me." Ryuto, with a determined smile, said to Lilith, "If I abandon you here, I can't replace a hero." He continued, the confidence evident in his voice, "This is for my own satisfaction, so don't worry." Lilith, clearly touched by Ryuto's words, murmured, "Teach," as she clenched her fists. She was torn between concern for Ryuto and gratitude for his unwavering determination. While talking, he was digging into a mud wall, mentioning that according to old information, it should be fragile. Lilith, surprised, watched Ryuto as he worked. Ryuto, with a confident smile, said, "Lilith, I have a favor to ask. Please, get as many branches as you can from the forest."